Hi, everyone. I'm Mia Sanchez, and this is my husband.
Hello, my name's Andrew Sanchez.
And we're going to be talking about balancing parenting and work in the time of this pandemic. So, for today's presentation, our discussion points, we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves. Then, we're going to talk about our family, our life before and after COVID 19, some tips and tools that have definitely helped us, and also some resources as well.
I am an individual and family counselor at the Center for Emotional Wellness of the Northwest Suburbs. I've been there for about 4 years now. Prior to that, I spent nearly a decade at Amita Behavioral Health Hospital in their adolescent program, child program, school anxiety, school refusal program, and chemical dependency program, as well as spending some time on their inpatient units. So I've worked with a variety of populations as well as acuity levels throughout my career.
I am currently a school social worker at Cary Grove High School. I am going on my 4th year there. Previously, I worked at Alexian Brothers Behavioral Health Hospital or Amita Behavioral Health. I was there for 5 years. I also worked in the adolescent partial program, the school anxiety, school refusal program, the child program, and I also worked in the adult program as well. So if you saw on Andrew's page, he had a picture of our son. And then on my page was a picture of our 4-month-old daughter. And Manuel is going on
20 months,
20
21 months.
21 months. And then our daughter is going on 4 months. It gets kind of blurry, especially when they're 2 kids under 2. We moved into our house 2 years ago now, and then we are going to celebrate our 5-year anniversary in November. We're really close with both of our families. We moved to an area where we are not more than 10 minutes away from both of our parents, your sisters, and then my brother is in Louisiana. But that's just a little bit about our family. And the picture that we have on this slide kind of encapsulates us, I feel like. We're homebodies. We love to stay at home with our kids. We love hanging out with our kids. This picture was actually taken by Manuel, our close to 21-month-old, on our iPad, where he was saying cheese, cheese. And we're like, what is he doing? But just a little bit about our family. So, just in talking about what our life was before and after the pandemic. So, before, like during the weekdays, I would get up at 5 in the morning. I'm contracted 7 to 3 at Cary Grove High School. Both of us were working. I would leave in the morning and then I would come home. Both of our moms are in charge of childcare. It was dependent on the day of the week, and that's how I knew what day of the week it was. Where if my mom was taking care of our kids, I knew it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. If Andrew's mom was taking care of the kids, I knew it was Wednesday, Friday. But both of us were working. I would come home to the kids. And what time would you start your day around?
It would depend on the day. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes around noon. But I would typically work into the evenings. So there were days where me and Mia wouldn't see each other. But we had a pretty clear boundary as far as when work would start and when our work day would start and when our family part of the day would start and end. So that's clearly something that has changed recently. But yeah, we always knew that we could depend on the grandma. So if one of us was sick and wasn't able to make it into work, it was real easy to have one of the grandmas come over to assist us with childcare while we were, tending to our our illness. Clearly, a lot has changed.
Yeah, and we definitely have those separate spaces too, where I had that boundary of going to work. I didn't have our kids with us. And then you would go to private practice and you would like have that separation as well. And that's definitely been different. I feel like I remember like obviously it was what like going on 2, 3 weeks ago that the shelter at home started. I can't even
Mm-hmm.
remember now. It seems like all a blur. But when all of that started, it was definitely so difficult for us to adjust because you were starting to work from home. I was already working from home. We didn't have those separate spaces. Everyone was all in one house. We didn't get to leave and go to our buildings. Like, I couldn't go to school. You couldn't go to a private practice. And we didn't really have variety in our day either. I could like go out to lunch at work, and that was really nice.
Yeah, no, I remember I'd leave maybe a half hour early so I could go pick up some food. I'm like, I'm in the mood for like a burger. Clearly it's very different now. Yeah, just having that separation. I work out of two offices. One of them is 5 minutes away from where we live. The other is closer to 40 minutes away. But even the 5 minute break of switching over from feeling like your parent caretaker role or husband role to I'm going to go into my therapist role. I never realized how important even just like that 5 minute drive was, let alone the 40 minute. And now, it has been an adjustment going from, being dad 1 minute walking up the stairs to the room where I do the telehealth appointments and turning into counselor. So that's, that had its challenges at times.
Yeah, because now we're mom, social worker, everything like all in one, and we don't have time to transition. Because I remember on my ride home, I would decompress, leave everything at work, and then when I get home, then I'm like, mom. But now, obviously, it's like totally different. And especially when both our moms were in charge of childcare, it was so nice because if we wanted date night too, or if we wanted a break or anything like that, we would just call them up and then they would be over in 5 minutes because they're so close anyway. And then we would have that time together just to kind of connect and decompress like whenever we wanted to. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're both very blessed that we are able to work in the safety of our home during this time as well. We're definitely privileged in that way. None of us are essential workers, so that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of our family is healthy too.
Yeah, and we're able to work,
For sure.
which is important.
Yeah, that would be another added stressor too. Yeah. So we want to just share some tips and tools that would definitely be helpful during this time. We're going to talk about schedule and routine, communication, setting realistic expectations and boundaries, staying connected with other people, and just how to be kind to yourself during this time.
To start off with, I think schedule and routine is extremely important. Here in our household, we wake up at the same time every day. That's because we have two young children who seem to wake up at the same time, regardless of what time they go to bed. But we also try to keep our kids and ourselves on a pretty routine sleep schedule. I think that just helps keep your energy levels up during the day, and your body, having that consistency helps. I work with a lot of parents in my job, and one of the things that I've been trying to really emphasize over the course of these past few weeks is the real need for these kids to have some consistency. They've gone from 5 days a week, highly structured. A lot of the kids I work with are in sports or clubs where pretty much 7 days a week they're busy with something. They're always looking forward to the next objective that they need to complete, and to go from that environment to what they're experiencing now in some cases, little to nothing to do each day can be quite jarring. So with the goal of keeping them motivated and keeping their moods up, I think it's really important, and also for the parents, it's really important to give them some sort of structure. They can implement some of it themselves, but I think they really do look towards the parents and to us to make sure that, we're helping maintain that, and also keeping them accountable if we notice that they start to slip, because this is a really difficult time for consistency. And I think what I'm hearing from a lot of parents is that, they're noticing some some unhealthy patterns popping up. And I think that if we can get through this pandemic with a modicum of consistency, it's going to go a really, really long way towards making sure that when the fall comes, it's a smooth transition as possible to get these kids back into school. So I think that's one of the big emphasis is just the sleep schedule, the some sort of routine, even with like some exercise. I know that some of these kids are really into athletics and sports, so it's really important that they maintain that in any way that they can, as well as some sort of structured family time throughout the week. Even if it's something as small as like taking the dog out for a walk, or playing a board game, just something to keep them involved. And also something, again, that potentially could be like on a family calendar. Me and Mia, we share our calendars with each other, so we know both our work schedule, we know our family Zoom schedule when we're gonna have our Zoom meetings. We even go as far as planning ahead a few days in advance. Hey, what day should we go grocery shopping, or which day should one of us go grocery shopping, just so we're kind of on the same page and we know what to expect. It makes everything a little bit easier for us. And I think it goes a long way towards making it easier for, the kids or the teens as well.
For sure. And if you have that schedule and that routine and that consistency, it can definitely help with those expectations, especially when in the world right now, there is a lot of things that we don't know. Having that schedule and that routine will definitely help to alleviate the anxiety that is kind of going on in the rest of the world as well. So communication is so key, especially during this time. Andrew and I used to be on separate schedules. We would just we had that consistency and we had that routine. We knew what to expect Monday through Friday, on the weekends, different things like that. But definitely the communication, it's so key to have that communication during this time, because our day is so compact from 7 to 7. So sharing our calendar, we definitely have to let each other know when our work meetings are, when my work meetings are, when he's doing telehealth, so that we can swap and switch, especially when our roles are all jumbled into a 12-hour day. I definitely have to discuss my needs. I have to let him know, like, hey, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm going to do a Zoom workout with my coworkers, or different things like that. And I know that you have like worked out in the morning, so kind of discussing your needs and just kind of helping out with that childcare as well.
Yeah, and I think for the parents with older kids or teens, I think it's also just a healthy role modeling to express what you need, even if it's something as simple as, hey, I need to go into my office a half hour early to take on some paperwork or what have you. So making sure that the kids see that and that we set that template for them, so that they feel a little more comfortable expressing their needs, because clearly, again, there's been such a shift. What your kids needed a month ago may be much different today from that short period of time ago. So making sure that you're communicating what you need, both time wise and emotionally, and really checking in with your kids as well, and asking them, not asking if something's wrong necessarily, but just asking how things are going, and giving them the opportunity to communicate what their needs might be on any given particular day.
And we have younger kids, so we haven't talked anything about what is going on in the world with our children, but definitely being open and transparent in your communication with your older children, maybe if you have older children, being open and honest that, like, you don't know as well. Like, we could be going back to school May 1st, but it's kind of up in the air right now. We won't know, but what's consistent is that you're working on your e-learning and we're all healthy and we're all at home and different things like that. But just kind of being open and transparent about what's going on in the world as well. So we talked a lot about having consistency, that schedule, and that routine. For setting realistic expectations, I've seen a lot of parents' schedules that have been mapping out the entire day, down to the minute, down to the hour, of what their child is going to do. I've also seen parents set up homeschool areas where it looks like a classroom in their home. Um, just being realistic with your expectations. We are in a pandemic. Having that schedule and that routine and that consistency is definitely beneficial for everyone in the family, but just kind of being realistic with those expectations that you do have for your children.
Yeah, and what we think is really important is coming up with a few goals, 3 or 4 things that you really want to try to maintain throughout this period of time, rather than coming up with 20 bullet points that you're trying to hit every day that are going to be a lot more difficult to follow through on. So, I think that coming up with a number that you feel is realistic, not only for yourself and whoever your co-parent might be if you have one, and also for your kids and where they're at, both in their intelligent, their IQ, as well as their emotional IQ, and making sure that we're just setting realistic expectations and not setting them up for failure, and not setting ourselves up for disappointment. And just taking it day by day, because this is tough. And one thing that we've had to realize is, we feel like we're really good at our jobs, and we feel like we're really good parents, but realistically, every day are we going to be, the best at our job, the best parent, the best cook, the best teacher?
Yeah.
It's probably not realistic, right? So, setting realistic expectations, not only for your kids, but for yourselves, I think is really critical during this period of time, because, frankly, not everyone, but, a lot of people, most people's stress levels are higher, which makes your performance, a little bit more difficult to maintain at a high level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like for those of you that co-parent, or if it's just you, just kind of reassessing what your values are and what is most important during this time. Definitely communicating that with a co-parent too, so that you're on the same page and that you're not setting different expectations for your children, and just kind of being on the same page as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to kind of talk about your values first and kind of branch your goals off of that, because if you and your co-parent, again, if you have one, are on the same page in regards to what you guys, consider to be the most important values, I think it'll make the goal setting a lot easier to come up with, and, realistic goals after that.
Setting boundaries is definitely key as well. I've had some students discuss with me how they do their e-learning in their bedroom and how it is not beneficial for them at all. Discussing with them how they can establish a workspace so that they can have that separate space and it's not connected any way with like their leisure time or anything like that. That's definitely beneficial for just parents as well, just to have that separate space, especially if you are working from home, just to have that that boundary too, and just to have that separation of space. Something that is beneficial for all parents, if this is something that is feasible for you, especially in your jobs, is to keep work hours. So after a certain time, if it's 5 o'clock, to not check your email, to not even look at the computer, just to kind of be mindful and to separate the electronics. I feel like that even before all of this was going on, that we were so attached to electronics as well, I guess. So just kind of being mindful of that, and just to keep that separation, obviously, if possible, and just to keep those work hours too, just to kind of have that separation of space too.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of parents who have struggled with this, shift in environment, feeling like they're being pulled in both directions, wanting to show attention and focus to their children, but also getting texts or emails that are related to work, and feeling the anxiety that comes with being kind of in between. So I think, like Mia said, establishing some work hours, establishing like a workspace that when I'm in this room, or I'm, within this period of the day, I'm doing work, or vice versa. I'm spending time with my family, or I'm decompressing, and having some of those physical boundaries as well as some of the emotional boundaries, and making sure that you're able to kind of downshift, because again, we may have been accustomed before to having a 30-minute drive home where you can kind of decompress, and now it's maybe a walk down the hall. So as best you can, establishing that and trying to be consistent with it. And again, don't expect perfection, because there's going to be times where it's going to be difficult to manage, but
For sure.
to do your best to just be consistent as far as maintaining those boundaries, because they really will help you in the long run manage your stress. And also, for a lot of families, I've also tried to express that while this is a stressful situation for a lot of people, this is an opportunity to really strengthen some bonds or reconnect with our spouse or our partner or our children, and making sure that there is some good that can come out of this. And I've had those discussions with parents as well, that ever since we started taking the daily walk, or ever since we started playing Uno or Sorry, they feel just more connected to their kids. So I think that there is good that can come out of this, again, provided that we're just able to kind of maintain those boundaries in that structure. I think that'll benefit both our work as well as our family relationships.
Staying connected has been so key for us too. We are so close with our families that just having those Zoom meetings, doing virtual group outings with our friends, our coworkers has definitely been so beneficial. I've talked to different teachers who have talked to their students, and students will say, "Oh my gosh, Mr. and Mrs. So and so, I was waiting for the day when we didn't have to go to school, and I was waiting for all these snow days to happen, and then they never happened, and then this happened, and I've been wanting to go back to school, and I want those relationships, I want those connections, I want to see my friends, I want to see my teachers." And there's definitely different ways that you can foster those connections too. I always encourage my students to reach out, especially in this day and age. It is pretty easy to like talk with one another, and have those video chats, and just kind of keeping in touch with our supports. I've also told my students to kind of be creative, that they can go on walks, but keeping that social distancing in mind, and just trying to stay connected, especially when they feel so isolated from everyone in the world. And like, there's a lot of teenagers who want to go hang out with their friends, but they can't. But just kind of staying connected in that way too.
Yeah, I think staying connected with your supports outside of the house, whether that's therapists or even something um, that might seem as small as just making sure you're getting your medications refilled. And I've been talking to a lot of teens and their parents, and that's something they're really worried about. A few of them, about making sure that they're having just a supply of their medication, because that's a big support for them. But staying connected with your therapist, staying connected to your family supports, and within the household, staying connected as well. Checking in with whoever your co-parent might be, once a day, even if it's just for a few minutes, and saying, how did today go for you? And kind of review, where we may need to adjust or make some changes to make sure that we're running the household as smoothly as possible. And like Mia said, just utilizing Zoom or FaceTime or
Whatever platform.
Doxy.me, I think that's a new one I used today, which I recommend. I liked it a lot, and it's HIPAA compliant. So just staying connected with friends and family with whatever way you can, while again maintaining your safety and your health.
As a social worker, I always hear practicing self-care all the time. Every time I go to like a conference, or even when I'm talking with my coworkers, my friends, they're always saying to practice self-care. During this time, this is so crucial. And making sure that you are practicing to take care of yourself, is going to be so beneficial just for everyone in the family as well. Making sure that you're exercising, taking time for yourself, getting enough sleep, taking care of the basics. So, watching your nutrition. I know that's something that is going to be a little bit difficult, especially when you're trying to ration out groceries and
Or
trying.
or you open the freezer and the frozen pizza staring at you.
Yeah, or if you want to eat like the potato chips because you're stressed out and you've had a rough day. But just kind of being mindful of that as well. Just taking care of those basics is going to be so beneficial just when you are taking care of other people too. Kind of making sure that you're unplugging and unwinding as well. I always catch myself just checking my phone, checking the news. It's so easy to do, especially when we want updates on what's going on in the world. And I know that some students have said that their parents keep the news on their TV on all day. And it's constantly on, it's on multiple different televisions in their home. But just kind of making sure that you're separating yourselves from everything that's kind of going on, and just kind of being mindful of the effect that that's having on other people as well. And definitely just being flexible, um, just kind of being mindful of those expectations that you have for yourself. I know some people will feel a lot of guilt that they can't be the best parent, that they're not understanding a certain subject, and they're getting so many different emails from all of the different teachers that their children uh, like are getting with all the assignments that they have, and just trying to juggle all of those different roles, and just kind of being flexible with that too.
Yeah, and kind of going back to something we discussed before, just really utilizing the supports. I talked to someone yesterday who had felt really overwhelmed, a student with his assignments and the workload he was given, um, and that was a week ago. And then I spoke with him again yesterday, and he said, you know what, I emailed my counselor and I figured it all out, and it was a really simple solution. Um, so, he said he felt relieved. I know that he and mom had a conflict the week prior because of some question about whether or not things were being turned in and was there a line. And it turns out, it was just a really simple miscommunication, something he didn't understand on. I'm not even sure what the app is, the application he uses for school, but he felt much better. So, reach out to your school supports, reach out to your own or your children's therapists. Soon we'll talk about some resources that are available to everyone, but ask for help, and make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself, and you're seeking out the help that is available to you.
So, we wanted to have a list of resources that would be beneficial for everyone. We are definitely blessed that we can stay at home and take care of our children. There are some supports out there, definitely reaching out to family to see if they can help out, to see if they can like walk the dog or at least help out, especially keeping in mind that social distancing and that safety. Care.com and sittercity.com, they do have programs for essential workers. You would have to look into more detail on those websites, but they do have different programs that can definitely help out essential workers. For different activities, I heard cosmic yoga is great for kids. I personally love Orange Theory, and I've done some Orange Theory YouTube exercises. Those have definitely been beneficial just for self care. And there are also virtual field trips as well that you can kind of help with those connections with family members. You can go on a virtual field trip together. Those have been really great. And I've seen like a whole website of them. And then working with educational resources, I know e learning is definitely very difficult. I would say to reach out to teachers first just to see if they can help in any way. I've also heard Khan Academy, and then you've seen YouTube too, right?
Yeah, YouTube has a bunch of resources for young children, grade school children, as well as high school students and junior high, just depending on their age range, and they break it down. It's one of the top suggested results right now when you go onto YouTube. They're really putting that on the main page to try to make sure that people can see that. So those have been, I've talked to a couple parents who have found those quite helpful as well.
And then some resources for connections, making those connections. We've used Zoom with our family.
Mm-hmm.
We use Google Duo, Google Meets. I've personally used Marco Polo with 2 young kids under 2. Marco Polo is sending like videos back and forth, but you don't have to check it and it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, it's like Snapchat, except it's not ephemeral. They will stay until you watch them and you can save them. So if you have kids and you may not be able to reply right away, or you may not be able to record it without having someone like jumping in front of the camera, it's probably a better option.
Yeah, that's been kind of fun. And I've also heard Netflix Party, where you can watch a movie with other people and just kind of have a movie viewing party with other people. We've also listed some mental health resources as well, keeping in contact with your therapist, your psychiatrist. If you need any private practice referrals, we will have our emails on the last page. Reaching out to community agencies, and if there is an emergency, definitely reaching out to those crisis lines.
Yeah, and also related to mental health, I know that the counseling practice I work at, the Center for Emotional Wellness of the Northwest Suburbs, we've got a resource page coming up really quick. It's going to have resources for adults as well as adolescents and children. So just give them some more ideas and supports. So look for that on the website. So thank you so much, everyone who listened. I hope you found this helpful. If anyone would like to follow up or has any questions, please feel free to contact us at our emails here on this last page. Everyone, we just hope you guys stay safe and take care. Okay, stay healthy. Bye.
Bye.